Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and humanoids of all ages, and welcome back to another episode with your host, Always Tea Time, and we're joined by the amazing venvenn, as always.
As always, I'm only sometimes here.
Well, always, sometimes, who knows when. Anyway.
We've decided this is going to be my segment here every Sunday, was it?
Every Sunday, yep.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
I'm going to be teaching you how to play Crusader Kings. Now, some would say, oh, isn't that just that grand strategy game by Paradox? Yes, but it's a lot harder than it looks. Because a lot of people write it off as being like, oh, it's just the simplified version of Universalis, but it's got its own complexities.
Yeah.
Because Universalis has quite a few more mechanics.
Yeah.
But this has its kind of complicated stuff by itself.
Uh-huh.
And I find it a lot more fun than Universalis. I think it's probably Paradox's best game. So we'll dive right in.
Okay, awesome.
Basically, we're starting in the 1066 bookmark, which was the kind of original before the DLC. Now you can go back to, I think it's 769, and which is the Charlemagne time period, who is kind of the Europe guy.
Yeah.
Basically, so in this time period, you can kind of see, if you scroll over the map there, we've got on the board, it's kind of like, the basis of the game, it's kind of like a big board game with loads of people. So instead of controlling countries, you control people.
Nice.
Which is, so you've got dynasties and big families of people, like, and you've got your sons who can lead armies, you've got generals, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's all about, so rather than like, something like Total War, you're in charge of a country. Sure, you've got dynasties, but they're kind of like secondary. You are, no matter what, in charge of the country. But in this, you are the person, the head of the dynasty, rather than the country. So if you happen to rule a country, then good for you. And you have to be a landowner. If you lose all titles and all land, then you lose the game.
Yeah.
In terms of winning the game, you don't really win. The game ends at 14, I want to say 1446, but I'm not certain on that. Okay. It's 14 something, so the game ends
in a couple hundred years.
Yeah, like you get it's the total game 700 years from start to finish if you got the DLCs. And well, 700 years ish. And so you don't really win the game though, it just kind of ends. I have actually done that before. I've played all the way through. And in terms of winning the game, you kind of set yourself goals. Like, say you start as one of the independent kingdoms of Ireland.
Yeah.
You go, oh, I'm gonna be king of Ireland. So you spend the whole game trying to become king of Ireland. Once you eventually become king of Ireland, you think, you know what, Scotland would be nice. So you go over to Scotland, you start taking land and stuff. So you set yourself goals rather than having like an end game winning situation.
I see what you mean, yeah.
So there's a lot of fun places to play, but the basics are, the main things you want to be thinking about when you're choosing a country are how powerful they are, their religion. So if you see at the top, there's loads of map modes. If you switch to religion map mode just now, Alex.
Okay, doing that now. Religions. There we go. Okay.
So you see that obviously most of Europe's Catholic at this point, but you've got the Orthodox Christianity to the east. And then there's Tengri, which is kind of a paganism of the horse lords, and Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims as well. And then you got so religion's a big part of the game, obviously, because religion was a huge part of the medieval time period. And you go over to India, you can see Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism. And so you got to consider religion. You've also got to consider, if you click to governments just now, most of the world is feudal at this point. Well, at least most of the European world. Equata, the IQTA, is kind of a Muslim version of feudalism. So it's close, but it's got very rigid rules in the Muslim world at this point in time. And there's also tribalism, which is kind of pre-feudalism. So it's kind of, the kind of picture the Celts pretty much, like that kind of like setup. So you got chieftains and whatnot. So those countries that are still tribal just now. Well, that nomadic countries, so nomadic government, it's similar but not quite. So imagine the Dothraki from Game of Thrones is a good example, for instance. So that's very similar to how Mongolia and places like that were at the time. So the steppe, it's called, that area of the world.
Yeah. I've done some research on that.
There's also merchant republics. They are very interesting because I think that this one changes the game the most if you play as a Merchant Republic, because it's less about kind of land and more about money at this point. So that's like, Venice, Pisa, and Genoa, those kind of places, and of course the Hansa.
There is a republic here, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, there's 4 republics currently in the 1066 start point.
Yeah. Part of Spain, Portugal. Sorry.
Well, that's a republic. So merchant republics, if you look over at Genoa, Pisa, Venice, and Visby.
The ones that are red, yeah.
Yeah, red. They're kind of like light red. There's 2 unplayable government types. That's a republic and a theocracy. The reason why they're unplayable, I think there's 2 republics at start. The reason why they're unplayable is in a theocracy, it's not diplomatic, but cardinals tend to, like, for instance, you can't play as the Pope because it's all about dynasties, the game, and a cardinal takes your place. They're voted up by other cardinals as Pope, so you couldn't keep playing. And republics are elected officials rather than dynastic continuation.
So you wouldn't have to do the relationship thing of getting married and having kids.
Yeah, well, if playing Republic would last very little time, you'd last until you die, and then you'd lose the game. And the same with a theocracy. So that's why you can't play as those government types.
Well, surely you could do it one way with the Republic, with if you engineer so your politician gets in, so it's like he's taking over your role, sort of thing. That could be one way if they wanted to add it in the future, sort of thing.
Well, nah, they've got the game, and it works the way it works.
The game, it works. It's fine.
I mean, I'd like to play as a theocracy, but it wouldn't really work. Republics are fine because we've got merchant republics, and it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. So I'd say, in terms of learning the rest of the basics, so that's kind of like the what you consider about the country. Yeah. So in terms of power, I mentioned earlier, that's the third aspect. You've got duchies, counties, kingdoms, and empires. Well, it's counties, duchies, kingdoms, and empires. So there's only 2 empires at the start of the game, I think, which is the Holy Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire. I don't know if Seljuk's an empire yet. I think they're just a kingdom. But basically, if you go to the counties, or the counts map mode, so that's all the kind of weak single or multiple counties. They've got it's good for a nice challenge, because what you can do is you can set yourself goals of, I want to become the duke of this area, or the petty king if it's like a Celtic or pagan land. Then if you go to dukes, that's the more powerful people. So you've got the petty kingdom of so you've got the King of Connaught, the King of well, it's Munster, but what's quite nice about the game is they've got the names of places in their native tongue. A lot of the time. Nice. Not always, but a lot of the time. And so and then you've got kings. So you've got King of Scotland, King of England, King of Poland, King of France, the classics.
Of course, yeah.
And then there's no empire map mode because there'd be a waste of kind of space. And so I think, what do you want to start as, just for a nice learning experience?
I'm not actually sure now, because I did want to go for Ireland, of course.
Yeah. It can be fun, but it can also be quite hard, Ireland.
Yeah, which is
you could do, I'd say, if you go for good old...
what about Iceland?
Iceland, no, that's a hard one. Well, it's quite handy. If you click on them, it'll give you a difficulty rating.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
And it's quite hard, Iceland.
There was something easy. I guess we could go.
You can go Ireland, actually. What I suggest is actually going our old hometown.
I was thinking that. I was looking at that. It's the whole of Mumme. So this is it here.
Yeah. Back in this time, they were one of the more powerful petty kingdoms, because you remember, the O'Brien family. So they're actually in power just now. Isn't there a tree nearby where we used to go? It was like O'Brien's tree or whatever.
O'Brien's tree, yeah.
Yeah. So the O'Brien King Murchard O'Brien is currently in power. So that's quite cool, a little bit of nostalgia there. But anyhow, so yeah, you can go as him. What I'll do is I'll go as the King of Scotland, and so I'm a more powerful country. I can help you out if you need help.
Nice.
Alright, so if you click ready, and we'll start the game.
So I'll be a duke then.
Yeah, you'll be a duke, I'll be a king, and
Sweet.
well, technically, how it works is because Ireland's kind of like a more. They're dukes in places like England and the Holy Roman Empire and France, but in Ireland they're petty kings, because you're the king of Munster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the king of Munster. I'm king of Scotland.
King of everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's called a petty king because it's kind of like a smaller kingdom, like how Ireland used to work.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. Cool. I'm ready for it then.
Right, so click ready.
Ready.
Cool. Right. So
awesome.
In terms of the actual game, you'll see in a second there are several main aspects in playing it. You've got to consider mostly your own family and dynasty. So the main thing to consider: do I have an heir? And is that heir kind of good enough? Because a lot of the game is training up your heir kind of to be worthy to succeed you. Because there are times where you do not want a really crappy heir, because that could be the difference between you your dynasty dying out and you gaining a lot of land.
Yeah, of course.
Because say there's a big important war and if you've got a crap heir, you die in the middle of the war, and you've got some 12-year-old with no stats.
Yeah.
So I'd say, first off, I'll explain what the interface is just now. Okay. If you go over to your portrait, you click on yourself there, you'll see kind of your dynasty screen.
Nice.
So you've got you in the center there.
Yep.
You've got
your wife. Your wife. I have no wife.
No wife, and you've got your heir.
Yep. He's good. He's 18 actually.
If your heir is not of your dynasty, the word heir will be in red, which is a warning saying you will lose the game pretty much if you die just now. So also on scene, you've got your religion. You can see it's a Catholic cross there.
Yep.
You've got your government type, so those are the things we talked about earlier. And you've got your culture. So if you go, I'll talk about map modes in a minute.
Oh, 1 second. Should I just disable hint, shouldn't I?
Yeah, well, you don't need it. I'm here to give you hints.
He is the hint man. Okay.
I'm the hint man. It's a semi-tutorial.
Right, so where do you want to go?
Well,
stats.
First off, just stick on your page just now. Yeah, other things you can see is your name, your age, your titles, that kind of stuff. So with titles is the kind of like lands you own. So you'll obviously have your county that you own and your petty kingdom that you own. So petty kingdom of Munster, county of well it's in Gaelic, so it's hard to pronounce. I'm not even going to try.
I'm just going to align my thumb underneath them both. So
yeah.
That's what I own. That's mine. That's my area.
So yeah, you've got a vassal as well. So you're quite lucky there. So since it's the feudal kind of like government system, you've got it's medieval times. So vassals and that kind of system of class is a big thing. So you are his lord. Yeah. So he's not he doesn't. A big problem is unruly vassals, because they don't like you. They don't have to give you all their troops or all their taxes. They won't pay taxes. They won't give you their full levy. So next up, we've got if you look below the kind of religion stuff, you've got your culture. You've got 2 buttons. We'll go into them in a minute. But you've got your stats, and stats are a big part of what your character is. So you've got diplomacy, martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. So basically, diplomacy is obviously how diplomatic you are, but what it affects is directly it affects how many vassals you can have, because there is a limit to how many vassals you can actually manage yourself. Martial affects how good a fighter you are and how good a commander you are. Stewardship affects how well you are with money and taxes and that kind of stuff. Okay. Intrigues how good you are at plots and all the kind of core intrigues and stuff. And learning is a lot about religion and knowledge and just how wise you are as well. Nice. Below that, you've got a row of traits. So these can be anything from kind, honest, cynical. Obviously, I can't actually see what you've got, but I can see what you've got. Yeah, you've got a tough soldier, brave, kind. Oh, so you've got a decent set. I'd say there's a set of traits that I would say are the ones you really want, and brave and kind are 2 of them. So they're 2 of the best, and just is a pretty good trait as well. Yeah. Proud's actually decent as well. You've only got good traits.
Yeah, and tough soldier's good as well.
Below that, you've got your combat modifier.
Yeah.
So what this tells you is your kind of stats. If you're a commander, those are kind of your modifiers. Yeah. And also you in a fight have got a combat skill of 2, which sounds bad. However, most combat skills are between -1 and 3.
Wow.
You can go to about... It depends. There's people... You can get your combat skill quite high up, but usually they're only about 0 or 1.
Wow.
So you're an above average fighter.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a decent enough character. It's not, you're not superb, but you're decent.
Yeah.
So below that, you've got your family. So you've got your parents. Because we're at kind of a start of a game, it's not documenting who your mother is because they can't really track all of history. But you've got your father, your grandparents, all that, and then your one kid, which is your heir, and you've got your siblings as well. So, but next to your stats, you've got your limit on how much land you can own, which is your demesne.
Which is 3.
Yeah, so you can have 3 pieces of land. So 3 counties.
Probably 1, the bottom of Cork.
Yeah, you're gonna want to go down to Cork probably at some point, because we'll go into that in a minute actually. Next up is how many vassals you can have. Like I said, it's a number of factors, but mostly it's your diplomacy and that kind of stuff.
I have 24.
Yeah, so you can have 24. Yeah, so it's a lot of vassals.
Nice.
That seems like a lot now, but wait till you have an empire. Oof.
True.
Next up is how many troops you can muster out of your lands. So like your vassal and your own troops all come together as 1,480 troops. That's an estimate, but it'll be around that number.
Okay.
Then next up is how much gold's in your coffers, which is 65, which is, it's alright. It's not amazing, but you're not bankrupt, so that's good. And then it's in terms of the game does have a point system, and how the point system works is you've got prestige and piety.
Yep.
And so what happens is when you die, your prestige and your piety are combined together, and that forms your score. So prestige is awarded for doing heroic stuff and kind of like lordly stuff, that kind of stuff, winning battles, performing good actions, performing some bad actions, that kind of stuff. Whereas piety is awarded for doing religious things and fighting holy wars, that kind of stuff.
Of course. Makes sense. Yeah, cool.
So that's your character page.
Nice.
Next up, I'll best explain the map modes.
Okay.
I think it's the next and most important thing. So
I have been running around the map a little bit.
yeah, so the maps, there's a huge map. We've got Europe, North Africa, India, the Middle East, all the way up to some of Mongolia and Russia as well. A bit of Russia, not all. Russia's far too big to have all of it in, but this kind of section of the world. And so we've got terrain map mode, which is just kind of like, the greens and deserty yellows. Nice to look at, but I don't find it too helpful when you're actually playing the game. But it's a personal preference. I have a friend who never goes off of this map mode because they like the look of it. The one I used to play on is the Realms map mode, which I think is the nicest because you can see clear cut, whose land is what, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've been playing on.
Yeah,
it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's just nice to see what land is whose. Diplomatic relations is who you're allies with, and who you can declare war with, and who you're enemies with, that kind of stuff. So yellow is you can declare war on them. Blue is you've got an alliance with them. So if you've got you can't just declare war willy-nilly. I should add. How war works is you've got to have a casus belli, which is Latin for, I think, just claim. I can't remember, but it essentially means you've got to have a reason for your war. You can't say, okay, all you peasants, let's go die for me for just a whim. You say, oh, this land is rightfully mine, or we lost this land years ago, we're here to reclaim it. I have a right for this, or you can say, by God, like, I want to cast the heathens out of this holy land, that kind of stuff, So this is a good way to see, can I actually declare war on this person?
Nice. Okay, cool.
You can fabricate claims. There's a lot of political stuff, kind of nitty-gritty of the game. So next up is religious map mode. We were talking about this earlier, so you can see all the religions that everyone is.
Pretty simple.
Usually, not every single religion, but most religions can declare holy wars on neighboring counties or kingdoms or neighboring realms that have a different religion to them. So say you're in Spain, you can also see the Moors are in the south of Spain just now still. So the Christian nations to the north can declare holy wars on the Moors to the south.
And push down.
And all that stuff, just for the reason of my God's better than yours. The old classic. Next you got culture. So you can see you got the Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Anglo-Saxon, French,
Finnish,
yeah.
Russian.
So just
Commie.
obviously if your vassals are the same culture as you, they'll like you more. If they're different culture to you, they'll like you less. Like, so one thing is, when you're giving out land, try and give it to people who are the same religion and the same culture. That's a big pro tip.
Nice. Cool. Thank you, man.
Next up is wealth.
Okay.
The economy. So Ireland's doing pretty well. So you can hover over. It tells you how much taxes each section of the map pays. The greener the better. So the brighter green it is, the more tax they pay. The darker it is, and the closer to red, the less tax they pay.
Yeah. So a couple of your states aren't doing too well.
Yeah, a couple of Scotland's not doing the best.
So you said red, right? So pretty much all of Eastern Europe is.
Well, yeah, I can imagine there's not much tax going on there.
Yeah. There isn't much there, is there?
Yeah. Also, if you look over to the east, you can see the Silk Road. Now, if you know much, if you or all the viewers here know much about the history of all that, you've got spices and silks coming through from Asia through the Silk Road. So it's quite a. This was added in one of the more recent DLCs, but it's quite a nice little thing. So it brings a lot of wealth and economy to the lands it passes through. However, war will interrupt the Silk Road. So if war is declared along the path, then the Silk Road gets stopped there.
Oh.
Yes.
So if you conquer that land there, then you get all the resources coming straight to you, sort of thing.
Well, yes, the resources are passing through your land now, and so you're going to get huge tax benefits. You can also build a trade post on that land and gain even more. So next up there is duchies. So these are all the de jure duchies. So if, say, for instance, you're a good example here. You've got the Kingdom of Munster.
Yeah.
You have a right to, the bit with Cork in it, the most southern part of. It's your de jure right to own that land. So, if you so wanted, you could straight off the bat say, "That should be mine. I'm declaring war on you to take it," which I think we should do in a bit. As an example of when I'm teaching about warfare.
Yep.
Next up is de jure kingdom. So again, Kingdom of Ireland, Kingdom of Scotland, Kingdom of Wales, Kingdom of England, classic British kingdoms.
Yep.
And so, if you own 51% of a kingdom, you will have it. You can create the title to be King of Ireland. Say you own 51% of Ireland, you say, "Oh, I'm the King of Ireland now," and that gives you a de jure right to anything in the Kingdom of Ireland. So you can say, "The rest of Ireland, you're mine now." And pro tip number 2, if you are, a lot of the time, if you're the same culture and religion as someone you're the de jure liege of, you can. A lot of the time, they'll just accept an offer of vassalization. So you can say, "Right, I'm your rightful lord. You know, you're Irish, you're Christian as well. Just be my vassal. We can save all the bloodshed."
Exactly.
And a lot of the time they'll just say yes. So if you're the same religion and culture and they're de jure lord, then they'll just say most of the time yes. If they don't like you a lot, like we're talking hate you, then they won't say yes. But you can batter them up a bit. There's a lot of ways to do it. I'm sure we'll go into that in future episodes. This is just the basics episode. Next up is Empire. So you got Empire Britannia, Scandinavia, Holy Roman Empire, Francia, Hispania, that kind of stuff. Arabian. The Arabian Empire, that kind all empires is 80%, or it might be 81. You have to control a large portion of that land to declare yourself emperor, Empire of Britain. Yeah.
Nice.
So we got a revolt risk, which again works similar to the economy. The greener the better, the more red the worse, and it's kind of how ready to revolt your peasants are. If you've got a bright red county, then you should get worried because your peasants are going to revolt. You got your dynasties, which are what dynasty is in charge of what land. So you've got the O'Briens in charge of Munster just now. And you can just see who's, the Godwins in charge of England, that kind of stuff. Opinions. So, again, greener the better, redder the worse. And you can see what people think of our lords by clicking on that county. It'll show you what everyone else thinks of that lord as well.
Oh, what, you mean my person?
No, if you click on, say, Connacht, you can see what everyone thinks of Connacht.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
right,
so that the map becomes the opinion of Connacht rather than the opinion of you. Right, direct vassals show who's in charge of what land. So you can see on your bit, it goes to the guy in charge of, it's Gaelic, I'm not going to try and say that, but that bit of your country, because he's directly in charge of that, but you're in charge of him. So direct vassal shows who's in charge of what directly. Trade zones is a nice one. So if we go over to, I think Italy's the best place to show that.
Italy, okay, cool.
As I was saying, Merchant Republics is a very different play style. So a lot of that is about building trade posts and controlling the seas rather than the land. So you can see the kind of areas of the sea that each of the trade republics own.
Nice.
Then you've got, if you click on, say, any of the counties owned by Genoa, maybe you can only do that if you're actually I was going to say, usually if you're a Merchant Republic as well, you can see what families own what trade posts, but that must just be when you're only, playing Metro Republic. If we go to governments, we saw this one earlier as well. You can see, feudal, tribal. We went into this already, but it just shows you stuff can change. The saying about Crusader Kings is historically accurate until you press play, because it is a simulation, so things instantly go awry. So you can get some very humorous situations arising.
Nice.
Defensive packs is a new one. They just added this. How it works is if you're waging war willy-nilly, you're taking lands left, right, and center, people get scared. So you have infamy rising, and over certain levels of infamy, your neighboring country will start going, oi, this guy's getting a bit out of hand. We should form a defensive alliance, pretty much, to say, if he attacks you or if he attacks me, then we'll team up and try and fight him. So it's not an alliance that like, oh yeah, we're going to go to war together. It's a defensive pact. So if we to get declared war on by this one particular person, then we'll work together. Yeah, So usually they work on religious basis. So all the Christians will form one defensive pact, all the Muslims will form one defensive pact, etc. The last map mode is players, which you can see what land is played by what players. So I think you can have up to 32 people playing at one game.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That might just be Stellaris, the latest, second newest grand strategy.
What does it mean there's a place like lighting up yellow?
Yellow? What map mode are you on?
I'm on the player map and there's Nice lighting up yellow.
Don't know. Odd.
No? Like if you go down near Italy, you'll see it.
I'm not seeing that, but
it's like shining goldy yellow all the way around Nice.
Try just changing back to a different map mode. It must just be a glitch. There's a few more things to cover, then we'll be done with the basics. So if you look up to the top right, you can see how much money you have, so that's your wealth, how much prestige you have, how much piety you've got, how much land you can have, similar to what you saw on your character page, but there's a few extra bits, so your vassal limit. Next bit is your realm size. So every single one of if you go over to your home county and click on it, you can see Bunratty Castle. Yes, so you hover over this Bunratty Castle, you've got a church in it as well, it's Bishop of Kildare, I think, or something along those lines. And there's a city as well.
City of Limerick.
City of Limerick, Bunratty Castle, familiar stuff to us, that's because this is where we grew up.
Yeah.
And so we'll recognise these places. But so your realm size is every single one of these, so your other county will have 3 as well. They can have varying numbers. So all the castles, cities, and churches in your realm. So you should have about 6, does it say?
It does say 6 indeed, yes, realm size, 6.
So your realm size is 6. And realm size only really comes into play when you're kind of thinking about there's certain kind of like events and stuff that need certain realm sizes, and if you want to create a kingdom, you've got to have a certain number of realm, like a certain level of realm size. The last bit up here is score, so that's what I was saying earlier. It's when you die, your piety and prestige are added together, and that's your score.
Nice, I like that. Cool.
Yeah, and so below that is the date, and I say the game spans 700 years if you've got all the DLC. So you can speed up the game on pause. We'll do that soon. Below that is messages, so it's just stuff like people dying or smallpox broke out in this county, that kind of stuff. And then below that's the outliner, which just says how much your taxes are, how much like.
Close family though. That's nice.
Yeah, you can and you can also bookmark stuff like that, and then. Above that is your notifications. So I think that's the kind of basics of the UI and kind of like country selections. I think that's episode 1 done there. Hopefully we'll keep doing the series and we'll learn more about the game. I think next up we're going to be doing the kind of intricacies of actual gameplay mechanics. Yeah.
Well, there is one thing we haven't brushed up, which we could do quickly, which would be on the top left corner next to the person. There's the council.
That's the gameplay mechanics.
Ah, okay, I see. Yeah. Cool.
Right. There's all how you play the game. So we'll cover that next week. But for now, that's the gameplay basics. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching. It's not that interesting just now, but once we get going, it's going to be really cool because you can do a lot of interesting stuff. But you got to go through the basics first to get to the interesting stuff.
Yes, we will. Awesome, thank you, man. Cool. We'll catch everyone next week then. So, ladies, gentlemen, and humanoids of all ages, give it up for venvenn and his teaching. I've actually learned quite a lot. I can't wait to play now.
It's exciting stuff. Right, yeah, no problem.
Man, definitely.
I'll see you all next week.
See you all next week. Take it easy, guys.